Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I have with me a very accomplished professional from Alberta, Canada, Larissa Soehn. Larissa, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Larissa is an international best-selling author, and you can see her books just behind her. She's also the Chief Executive Officer of Next Page Publishing. So, Larissa, let me start by asking you to tell me about your own journey in brief before we get to Next Page.
Absolutely. So I'm ex-corporate. I worked in corporate for 12 years and I really liked my job. It was really good for me. But then my family dynamic changed. I went through the shift of becoming a mother, which is, in my opinion, the biggest thing you can do in life. It's the thing that's going to change you the most.
Right.
And after that, I knew that the corporate life wasn't going to be for me anymore. The hours weren't going to work for me. The mental capacity, the load wasn't going to work for me. And it just wasn't what I needed anymore. So I took a step back from that in 2020 and I started writing creatively. I needed something to kind of bridge the gap between working full-time and then all of a sudden not working full-time. So I started, it was a big shift. So I started writing creatively and I wrote my first sci-fi book. And after I published it, I knew in my heart and my soul that this is where I needed to be. I needed to be in the publishing world and I needed to help others go through what I had gone through, but better. And that was the whole foundation for my business is I will teach you what I went through and I will show you how to do it, but better. Because my publishing experience wasn't great. It was a long, lonely road. And I didn't want that for other authors. I wanted them to feel the high throughout that. I mean, you've published many, many books, the ups and downs of it. I wanted to maximize the ups for the authors. I wanted to make them feel like they were part of a team. And my specialty is teaching. So that's exactly what I did. I combined authorship and publishing with teaching. And so we founded Next Page Publishing on the back of helping authors write their books and publish them.
Fantastic. So tell me a little more about how do you help some of the aspiring authors on Next Page Publishing?
Yeah, so we're a traditional and a hybrid publisher. So we publish in both facets. And honestly, I really love, kind of straddling the line between the two because we get to help the authors that are that have their hearts set on traditional publishing, that really, really want to, but we only take a few books a year and we only take the books that we think we can help through getting into schools and libraries and those more like academic side of things. But everything else, especially because we primarily serve entrepreneurs, we wanted to give them the opportunity to use the book their way, however they saw using their book.
Right.
Because with traditional publishing, you lose a lot of those rights. You don't have the ability to just give away your book for free. You don't have the ability to sell it at markets and go to speaking engagements. And that just doesn't work very well with traditional publishing. So we thought, how do we empower entrepreneurs to use their book as a branding tool and give them ownership, give them power? So we founded the hybrid half of our publishing company, and we take people from word one to published. And that is, again, that teaching component of what we do. We don't come in at the very end when all the hard work is done. We come in at the very beginning and we walk with you so that you can feel confident that your book is going to meet market trends. It's going to tell your story. It's going to say what you want it to say without that fear of getting lost in the messy middle.
Fascinating. And based on all your experience, what are some of the key challenges a lot of aspiring authors face? And how do you address those?
There's different challenges at every phase that you go through. As again, I'm sure as beginning authors, as baby authors, I like to call them, the first hurdle is just knowing what to say. What's your angle? Where are you coming from? How are you going to write a book that resonates with your audience? And that's one of the very unique things that we do in our publishing house, because we are with you from word one, is we help you refine your message. We help you get crystal clear on the intent of your book and who you're speaking to, so that you're not speaking to dead air. You have a person in mind. They have a name, they have a face, they have hair, like they're a whole body that you're talking to. So you know what to say to them. That's as new authors, I find that's where they struggle the most. They're the ones that, oh my gosh, I want to write a book, or people are telling me I should write a book. I don't know what to say, or why would anyone listen to me? I'm not credible. I'm not an authority figure. And like, yes, you are. If you are in the business, if you are an entrepreneur, you have the ability to be the authority figure. So that's baby authors. And then I won't get into depth with, the editing struggles that people go through, finding the right editor, the design, did you self-publish your books?
No. I worked with all the major publishers.
Okay, so you probably didn't have the ins and outs of trying to get your image just the right size to fit onto the self-publishing platform, the pain that you go through with that, and then marketing. That is huge for people. Marketing is so challenging. And in our publishing house, we teach you specific to entrepreneurs, and that is where we're different. We don't serve everyone. We only serve entrepreneurs.
How interesting. I mean, I wish I'd known you when I wrote my first book in 2010. Maybe I would have got some interesting tips from you. But, Larissa, you also mentioned that you select which authors to work with. How do you determine out of the many, many people who must be writing into you, who is suitable to support as an author?
We're very interesting because we are a small press publishing house. And so for us, it doesn't come down to bottom line. It doesn't come down to dollar value for us. It comes down to relationship. And so, of course, we look at your book and we see if it's a good fit for us. We like up and coming women voices. We tend to lean towards Canadian because we're Canadian. We tend to lean towards more business, memoir, transformational. That's our brand. That's what we've built our brand on. But the primary factor is how much do we connect with you during our interview process, do we think we can, because publishing is, possibly a 1 to 2 year long journey. We're going to be conversation. And then beyond, as we continue with marketing your book and having those conversations. So we need to make sure that we can bring you in as part of the family, basically, because you are joining a family with us. And so, yes, it's very heavily on the book. Obviously, we need to know that the book's right for us, but it's also on the author. We need to know that you're a right fit for us. And then with the hybrid publishing side, you'll find a lot of companies will just accept anything. They'll work on any project. It doesn't matter what genre, doesn't matter what your writing experience is, anything. And with us, writing experience isn't important. We can coach anybody. We can coach anybody to write a good book. But the topic is very important to us. Again, we only serve entrepreneurs. So if you have a story that you're planning on using in your business, and sometimes that might be a memoir that you're planning on using in your business, sometimes it's a teaching book. We're very selective on which projects we feel we can add the most value to.
Amazing. And what would you say are some common misconceptions authors have about the publishing process?
Oh, this is my favorite question because I get it all the time. Traditional, and I just made a post about it yesterday. Traditional publishing is not better. It is not better. As someone who is on both sides of that fence, of that line, traditional is not better. Traditional is just different. Now, I know with traditional publishing, people get caught up in the dollar figure of like, oh, they're going to pay for all of my editing, all my designing. And yes, that is true in traditional publishing, but that also means they're in power. They get final say on what happens with the edits and the content. They get final say on what's going on in the cover, and they get final say on how you distribute that book. You are giving away a lot of your power in traditional publishing. Whereas with hybrid or truly self-publishing, you are in control 100% of the way. You have final say over everything. So it really depends on what you want from your book. But the biggest misconception is that traditional publishing is better and that it's validation for a good book. I've been traditionally published, my book must be good. That is not true. It just means that a traditional publisher looked at you and looked at your book, at the topic of your book, and said, I can sell this. I can make money off of this. It doesn't mean your book is necessarily good. It just means it's good for the market right now. It might be out of style in 12 months. It doesn't fit the market anymore. But that's what a traditional publisher is looking for. Typically, they're looking for bottom line. Can they sell it?
Well said. And what, in your view, is the importance of developing a strong author-publisher relationship? And how do you support this?
Author-publisher relationship is a very special relationship because it comes from a spot of you have a person in the form of an author who is probably pouring their life into a book. They're giving it hours of energy. Essentially, they're birthing this book. They're bringing a new child into the world. And then you have someone like a publisher that comes in and is essentially the doctor. They're responsible to catch this baby and bring it into the world safely. And the relationship there is, who do you want handling your baby? Do you want somebody that is cold-handed, doesn't really, have the spark for human life, that doesn't really care about you as the mother or the author? Or do you want somebody that's warm and welcoming and cares for you and your baby as if it were their own? Is that the kind of love you want? And that's where Next Page Publishing is very different. We are one-on-one. You will probably work with me directly as the CEO because I value each and every author that comes through, and I value their books. I love their books the way I love my own books because I know what goes into them, and all of my team does. Every one of my team has their own books out in the world. They've been through the process. So that relationship is invaluable. Like, I know you can go out and find a hybrid publisher where you can just pay online and you never talk to anyone, you never meet them. And you can do that. There's no problem with that if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking for that more one-on-one connection where you get to really display the essence of your book, of your story, then you're going to want somebody that is more one-on-one.
Fascinating. So let me then ask you a question that I have often been asked as an author by aspiring authors. What is the help a publisher gives to an author? And in your case, you already told me you help them with the writing, etc. But if you can just tell me a little more in detail.
Yeah, I'm going to talk hybrid publishing because that is where, honestly, where my passion lies, because I get to be with a project from beginning to end. So in hybrid publishing, yes, we do help you with the writing process. In my case of hybrid publishing, we help you with the writing process. We help you get clear on your book's mission and vision statement, who you're writing to. And then we help you, depending on what your goal is with the story. If you want to weave your story into it, if you want to be strictly educational, we help you tailor it so that it fits the market. It's going to land with your audience, but it also has longevity. It's going to last, the 10 years that you need this book to exist for. And then we move into editing, and we give you technically 4 types of editing, but it's 2 rounds. And what, again, is very unique about us and why we are different than the pay online, never meet anybody, is that we match you with an editor that is your style, that is your teaching. So we have one editor that is very business oriented, and she's amazing. And then we have one editor that is more intuitive writing style, more transformational writing style. And so we pair you with which one is going to be best for you. And then you actually get to talk to that editor. They see your ideal reader. They know who you're talking to. And it's the foundation of that relationship is so much better than hiring even a nameless editor off the internet. And then we help you with design, all of those funky things we were just talking about, the piddly work of getting it just the right dimensions and the spine working out. We do all that for you. We teach you how to market. Again, marketing is, you will find marketing programs out there that will teach you generically how to market your book. What I have found, I've published in 3 different genres now, sci-fi, self-help, and children's. The marketing strategy for each is very different. The fundamentals are the same. You need to have an author platform. You probably need to have a social media of some sort, and you probably should have an email list. But how you leverage those 3 things, where you're showing up, what you're saying, is very different. And especially with entrepreneurs, the ability to use our book as a business card for our brand is so different than how I would leverage my children's book, for example. So we help you there. We train you there. And then the publishing, of course, we support you in the tedious bit.
Correct. And do you also support an author with distribution?
We self-publish through typically Amazon or Ingram Spark. So that's print on demand. And of course, authors get to buy their author copies as so. For part of the marketing plan is they usually have a stockpile of, let's say, 50 or 60 books that they are handing out like candy. So they can buy their author copies as well. But we find with the distribution through Amazon and Ingram Spark is more than what most authors need, because it gives them a spot to funnel their traffic. So if they're looking for bestseller status, send everyone to Amazon. That's where you're going to, climb the charts. So we take a very focused position on distribution.
Well said. Thank you. What a great response. My next question to you, Larissa, is on technology. Everyone's saying that the whole world is changing because of technology. How has technology started to change publishing, and how are the digital platforms beginning to change the traditional publishing industry?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Traditional publishing, I don't know that it's changed that much, other than their marketing strategy with social media being a lot heavier. They're starting to get into TikTok. They're starting to take over some major conglomerates. They're starting to just change their marketing strategy is huge. I don't know, like, publishing software and distribution and things like that, what the big houses are doing. I just know what we do. But for self-publishing, technology is changing everything. 5 years ago, self-publishing was a scarcity. You didn't hear about it a lot. And with the pandemic and everybody starting to realize that, books are a powerhouse, that's something that is in our control and well within our power, self-publishing is taking over, and the industry is catching up quite quickly with the demand of self-publishing. There are programs to help you write your book, like Scrivener, for example, is an amazing program for writing, and you're outlining your book. And for editing, there's editing software now. So if you can't afford a professional editor, and I will state there are differences between professional editing and the software. Professional editing will always be better. Well, should always be better, I should say, depending on who you hire. But there are software out there. So if you are limited on budget, let's say you only have $150 to $200, buy Grammarly, buy Pro Writing Aid, invest in the software, and those are good for lifetime. So if you want to write 5 books, then you have the license to do so. And it's getting more easier for authors to take their power and own the process themselves. But the caveat, you have to be tech friendly. You have to be willing to learn these systems. They are not easy. I don't know if anybody's worked with Adobe before. I'm sure people have. It is the most complicated software in the world.
Absolutely.
So if you don't have the time or the energy or the mental capacity to learn it, none of these are any good to you.
Very nice. So now let me move to your books. You got 3 books and I can see them just behind you. And you just mentioned that you've written on 3 very, very different genres. Tell me about your books.
Absolutely. So I'll start with my first book, my sci-fi book here. This is The Defender. And she was my life changer. She was my life changer. I always hold her near and dear to my heart. Every other book I kind of hold at face value, but she's the one I hold to my chest.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that got me through the roughest patch in my life. She's the one who helped me mentally survive life for a while. And she's the one who introduced me to publishing and to writing. And I can never say enough thank you to Alexia, my main character, for giving me what she gave me. She's incredible. And, she has 2 more books coming out in her series. And that is my thanks to her, I honoring her story and seeing it through. I will say I do beat the crap out of her, so I don't honor her that much, but she goes through some transformation. So she's incredible. So that's my first book, and it hit Amazon bestseller almost a year after it was published. So the power of marketing in that one. My second book of what I'll talk about today, or my two other books in the series is the how to publish a book and get published, which are very much my entrepreneur, my business aligned books. They are the ones that help people write their own books, get out of their heads, figure out what they need to say, and work through the process. And they help people all the way from, again, word 1 to published. And then I have my children's books. So when I talk to aspiring authors, I tell them, like, I have walked this path before, like I have done it all, because children's books is totally different than any other books. So I have 3 children's books as well. And I don't have copies of them in front of me, but they're all mental health based. They're all social issue based. They're mental health in mothers, racial indifferences and things like that. And they are aimed to help the conversation between parent and child.
Amazing. And my last question to you, Larissa, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your deep understanding of publishing and, of course, as an author, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want a lot of our aspiring authors to take back from your understanding of publishing, writing, and from our conversation?
The first one is traditional is not better. Traditional is not better. You have to look very closely at what you want from your book, how you want to use your book, what control you want to have. That would be the biggest thing. The second thing would be to just start writing. Just dive in. And some people, for them, it is creating the outline. That's the first thing to do. The second way is to just start with a chapter. Just start jotting something down. It can be bullet points, it can be full sentences, but just start. And then the third is to find your community. It doesn't have to be someone you hire. It doesn't have to be a hybrid publisher. It can be TikTok. It can be some groups on Facebook. But find somebody, some group where you can bounce ideas off of, where you can ask questions, that you can celebrate with, because you are going to celebrate and you are going to have low times. So find that community to uplift you.
Oh, wonderful. And on that note, Larissa, and your 3 wonderful lessons, traditional is not better. Just start writing. I think that's such a powerful statement, because there's so many people who say, I want to write, but then I don't know when to start. So that's a great tip. And the third one you said, which was very powerful, find your community. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey, about Next Page Publishing. I think I learned some very interesting things about the way you work. Thank you also for talking to me about your books. Thank you again, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website, www.tbcy.in, to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.